During a class, student Jun writes his last will. He is going to die, and he wants to record his hellish school life. His classmates made him eat a dirty cake. Jun knows humans can easily adapt, but he never gets used to the dreadful feeling of being bullied. He endures Lee Do-yeon's bullying. People act as if they'd pity him, but they can only laugh at him. Jun likes how the other students look at him as a loser. He decided to stop enduring and wants to be free now. He finishes his will and wonders how it feels to die. He hopes the blame will be put on Do-yeon. He laughs, imagining that Do-yeon will be a mess. He wonders how his family will react. He knows that they will not bother him because Jun is not good at anything. He would at least say his last farewell. That night, his family had dinner, but his mother was still out late. Jun tries to talk to them, but they don't mind him. A news report on television shows a student who brutally murdered his bullies. The student claims that he is not a murderer. He tells the people that he is not crazy. He asks if people know his bullies, who mocked his family and made his life a living hell. He names all of his bullies and asks the people if they have met these monsters. He calls out the losers like him watching the press conference. He tells them to ignore asking for forgiveness and take care of things on their own. Never kill yourself after feeling cheated. The losers are not the ones who are supposed to die and do whatever they must to survive. If you don't want to die, then kill. The press conference gets stopped. Jun's father comments on how everything the student said is nonsense. In Jun's head, he commends the student. He realized that he was not the one to die. In his bedroom, he reads through the news and wonders if he can also kill his bullies. However, he is scared to commit a crime. He hopes someone will just kill Do-yeon. But if Jun doesn't do anything, he is the dead one. He goes through a hardware box and finds a screwdriver. He practices stabbing his pillow while swearing to kill Do-yeon. The morning comes and he is hesitating. Do-yeon and his gang appear to bully him again. Jun reaches out for the screwdriver. However, Jun is easily affected by the conditioned fear ingrained in his mind and body. He gets slapped after he slips the screwdriver on his desk. After classes, Do-yeon brings Jun to a construction area. Their snacks and alcoholic drinks are waiting for them. Do-yeon pours cola into a glass and asks for Jun's socks. He also added noodles, potato chips, and dirt. He wants Jun to drink his special concoction. Jun refuses, but Do-yeon slaps him. He chugs the drink down while they film him. However, that's not the end. It's dark already, but Do-yeon still wants to make Jun drink more. Thinking that he will die, Jun gets out of Do-yeon's grasp and runs. Jun ran as far as he could, but Do-yeon caught up to him. Do-yeon beats him down. Jun thinks it was better for him to die earlier. Do-yeon drags Do-yeon back inside. Jun is scared looking at his bully's face. He suddenly realizes that it is better not to see Do-yeon's face anymore. He suddenly pushes Do-yeon, and a truck appears. Do-yeon's friends laugh remembering Jun just then. They notice a crowd. They heard it was an accident and check on the victim. Their faces say it all. Meanwhile, as Jun walked home, his dizziness disappeared. If he didn't push Do-yeon, he would be a dead person sooner or later. Jun just wants to survive. Jun wonders if Do-yeon died. He feels conflicted, but in the end, he just wanted revenge. The next day, Jun goes back to school while his head is full of worries and anxiety. He thinks he will get arrested, but the classroom is still the same, except for one thing: Do-yeon's empty seat. The teacher arrives and announces that Do-yeon got into a car accident and is currently in a coma. According to the police, Do-yeon got into an accident while jaywalking. Jun knows that he needs to get arrested. However, he enjoyed an ordinary life without his bully. He felt slightly happy and realized that this was the ordinary school life that had been stolen from him. Just then, a classmate asked if Jun pushed Do-yeon after he saw them together after classes. However, they only see him as a loser who doesn't have guts. The classroom's atmosphere also changed. Do-yeon's absence made the classroom more peaceful. Do-yeon looks at the skies, thinking that everything is fine. Well, he was surprised to see a police car arrive at the school gate. Jun is suddenly called to the office. Jun gets arrested under the suspicion of attempted murder. A teacher tries to defend him, but a nearby CCTV captures the moment Jun pushed Do-yeon. Jun gets escorted out and thinks that God really doesn't want to grant him happiness. Everything went as expected. The judge puts him on a 2-year probationary period. However, he was not sent to juvenile detention because he was forced to be drunk and because he is a bullying victim with a suicide note. Jun doesn't feel great at all, seeing his parents not caring about his life. He goes back to school and gets expelled. Schoolmates talk about how he is a bad person now instead of being bullied. However, he is glad that he won't see them again. He goes back home, but his father wants him out of the house. Daejun went back outside, and no one in his family even cared. Daejun walks outside without a destination. He arrives in an alley, and Doonun's friends confront him. They beat Daejun. He can't do anything in front of these people. They now call Daejun a demon, while Doon is the poor one. Daejun finds it ridiculous. It was Doon who pushed him 100 times off a cliff. He shouts that he didn't do anything wrong, and that it was they who bullied him first. Daejun gets beaten up again. However, he needs to struggle to live. He picks up a nearby brick and smacks the head of his attacker. He continues to attack Doonun's friend until blood splatters everywhere. Daejun doesn't need to feel guilty about these scums. He just needs to kill them. However, the others also bought weapons. They continue beating up Daejun. Daejun tries to fight back, but he is still outnumbered. They manage to grab Daejun, but he still has the energy to glare at them. As he is about to get hit again, a person arrives and asks who they are. He asks them why they are in such a mess in someone else's house. He wants them to get out so he can eat. The bullies laugh at him. The man is sad to see his pillow covered with blood. The bullies threaten him, and the man turns around, claiming that he has other homes. However, he turns back to throw his hot noodles at them and kicks one of the bullies. He uses sand to blind him and knocks out one bully. He dodges another attack and counters with a knee kick. He even blinds one of them. He also shows something wrapped in newspaper. The bullies thought it was a knife, but it was actually a pair of chopsticks. Distracted, the bully gets kicked in the face. Daejun can't believe a single person beats down all of his bullies. He felt satisfied watching everything. The other bullies ran away. Daejun thanked the man, but he got told off to get out too. However, Daejun goes back and asks the man to make him stronger like him. The man threatens him, but Daejun offers to treat him with noodles. Later, the man comments on how Daejun's life is messed up and praises Daejun's actions against Doon. However, the man refuses to train Daejun because he is not suited for fighting. It is because he lived a normal life. Daejun can follow the man around to learn, but he might die on the streets easily. Daejun begs, but he gets beaten up instead. Daejun cries, thinking that he will just suffer his entire life. Nevertheless, he keeps following the man despite getting beaten up from time to time. Daejun copied the man's lifestyle on the streets, be it eating or sleeping. He watches the man get into fights, and Daejun thinks he can get his revenge if he can become like the man. The man notices Daejun and asks how long he's going to follow him. He asks if Daejun is doing it for revenge, and Daejun confirms. The man then decides to teach Daejun how to fight. However, he first needs to beat up Park Jung-hyun, who is nearby, one of Daejun's bullies. The man comments on how Daejun is struggling like a rabbit right now, thrashing around while being cornered. The man suggests Daejun switch positions with them. Daejun later finds Jung-hyun and swears to be the lion this time. Daejun finds a chance and drops a kick on Jung-hyun. The man watches and Daejun celebrates. Just then, he gets punched by Jung-hyun. Jung-hyun continues beating Daejun, and the man concludes that Daejun is not worth checking out. Daejun gets thrown around like trash, and Jung-hyun plans to get serious about hitting Daejun now. Suddenly, a trash bag gets smacked in Jung-hyun's face. Daejun uses this chance, but Jung-hyun blocks the trash. Daejun doesn't have a choice but to tackle Jung-hyun. He tries to lift him, but Daejun fails. Jung-hyun tries to beat Daejun more. Daejun fights back by poking Jung-hyun's eyes. The man smiles as he realizes that Daejun copied his moves. However, imitating is useless if he doesn't have power. Jung-hyun laughs at Daejun for being a loser who can't take revenge. However, Daejun is still glaring at him. Daejun really feels cheated for being the one expelled from school instead of them. He wants to kill Jung-hyun. He remembers the man's words that tactics don't matter in a street fight and to use any means necessary. The man tries to leave, thinking that Daejun is just a weakling. Just then, Daejun points a knife at Jung-hyun. Yes, an actual knife. When a person is confronted with a knife, they stiffen. Daejun uses this chance to kick Jung-hyun. Jung-hyun trembles in fear and runs away. Daejun chases him like a madman. Daejun beats up Jung-hyun, and the latter can't believe things are reversed now. Daejun kicks him, and Jung-hyun complains that he got a recent injury on the spot. He asks Daejun to stop, but Daejun continues kicking his ribs. Daejun gets emotional remembering what they did to him, and Jung Hyun uses this chance to grab the knife. Jung Hyun then stabs Dejun's thighs, however it was only a metal ruler. Dejun laughs at Jung Hyun for being scared of a ruler. The man now finds Dejun interesting. Jung Hyun gets pissed off and beats up Dejun. Just then, the man appears and pours yogurt on Jung Hyun. Jung Hyun tries to hit him, but the man easily kicks Jung Hyun's face. He then tells Dejun that he is close but fails in the end. Dejun punches the ground out of frustration. The man sees his resolve and asks Dejun if he really wants to get stronger. He looks into Dejun's eyes and gives him one more chance, but it is going to be harder. The man then brings Dejun into a neighborhood. He claims there are worse people compared to school bullies, those students that schools can't contain anymore. He warns Dejun that living on the streets is worse and that there are a lot of dangerous guys out there. This neighborhood is where those people gathered. He kicks Dejun into a house and hopes that he survives. There, Dejun meets other people. Dejun explained everything to the people living in the house. However, they ask who sent him in. The man is actually known as Cho Han-gil. They ask what Dejun is good at, and Cha Dadyab is disappointed that Dejun can't do anything. However, they can't kick Dejun out because Han-gil brought him in. They tell Dejun to sleep for the night, and he gets led to the laundry room. Dadyub then tells him to prepare for tomorrow. The next day comes and Dejun does all the house chores. As a runaway teenager, he can't complain, at least he has room to sleep. He finds it better than school. He later explores the neighborhood and realizes that it is indeed a violent place. He accidentally made eye contact with the group, and Dejun got stopped. He notices that the leader, Hyum-tae, is trying to show off to his girlfriend. Han-gil wants Dejun to survive in this place. Hyum-tae tries to slap Dejun, who immediately takes a stance. Just then, Dadyub appears and tells Dejun to hurry back home. Hyum-tae gets pissed off, but his underling tells him that Dadyub with Kim-tak is part of Han-gil's crew. Hyum-tae is really mad and attacks Dadyub. However, Dadyub easily subdues Hyum-tae. Dejun is impressed that Dadyub is as strong as Han-gil. The others run away, and the three go back home. Later, Hyum-tae gets mad over being beaten by Dadyub. Just then, someone appears to offer his help against Han-gil's crew. It looks like Hyum-tae knows the person. One night, Han-gil's crew is sleeping soundly. Hyum-tae appears and lets out gas inside the house. Dejun happens to wake up and notices the smell. The others are knocked unconscious. Dejun pushes the door and knocks down Hyum-tae. Dejun recognizes him, and Hyum-tae runs off. He checks on everyone and later goes out. He remembers how useless he is, but Dejun wants to do something right now. Dadyub wakes up and sees the others on the veranda. Dejun catches up to Hyum-tae, and he plans to beat up the perpetrator. Days ago, Dejun kept pestering Dadyub to teach him how to fight. Dadyub hopes Han-gil takes Dejun back. He also knows Dejun doesn't have a talent for fighting. He notices something and gives Dejun a jumping rope. He tells Dejun to work hard to get something. He claims he can do 100,000 jumps with it. Dejun gets worried. The next day comes and Dadyub complains about not seeing Dejun do chores. He was only joking about the 100,000 jumps. However, he sees Dejun doing the jumps while sweating buckets. He tells Dejun that it is pointless, but Dejun wants to get stronger like him. He tells him to stop, and Dadyub starts to wonder why Dejun wants to fight. Back to the present, Dejun fights Hyum-tae. He punches Dejun and runs, but Dejun is super persistent. Now that he is caught, Hyum-tae needs to get out of the neighborhood. Just then, Dejun grabs his leg, and Hyum-tae rolls down the stairs. Dejun pins him down, but Hyum-tae brings out a real knife. Hyum-tae swings the knife randomly, and Dejun gets cuts on his body. He falls into the trash and uses something to block the knife. However, the object breaks, and Hyum-tae stabs. Meanwhile, the rest of the crew wakes up, and Tak thinks that it must be those bastards. They look for Dejun, and Dadyub tells them that he went for the guy who gassed them. The rest think Dejun will die, but Dadyub says otherwise. A while ago, Dejun woke up Dadyub and told him that they owed him their lives now. Dadyub must teach him to fight, and he will also find a part-time job. He asks to be acknowledged once he catches the guy who gassed them. He is confident he can catch Hyum-tae and forces Dadyub to make a pinky promise. Dadyub knows Dejun has gone insane, and that insane guy is now grabbing a knife with his bare hand. Dejun smirks and tackles Hyum-tae. Dejun shouts and tries to flip Hyum-tae over, but Hyung-tae is stronger. Daejun laughs and claims that he was not trying to flip him over. Daejun pushes Hyung-tae off the rails with him. Hyung-tae can see what a madman Daejun is. They fall off the edge and hit the ground. Daejun gets up and grabs a stone to continue the fight. However, Hyung-tae is obviously unconscious now. Daejun shouts, knowing that he won. His dream finally came true, but he suddenly felt something. The knife is lodged in his stomach. He sighs and falls down. Daejun later wakes up and sees Dae-yeob. The crew found him on time and got him to a hospital. The knife wound was only shallow, and Dae-yeob tells him that he will be fine. However, Hyung-tae was missing when they found Daejun. Dae-yeob then claims that they owe their lives now to Daejun. Tak now knows why Han-gil brought in Daejun. Han-gil arrives and asks Daejun if he really wants to learn how to fight. Of course, Daejun agrees. He got discharged from the hospital, and the runaway family fulfilled his second wish of eating pork belly together. They feel bad seeing Daejun wolf down the food as if they starved him. Daejun cries as he realizes living in the streets is hard when he only wishes for a normal life. Dae-yeob exclaims that it is the same for everyone, having their own circumstances. He tells Daejun to just continue living with them because it is better to live freely with punks. Everyone smiles and Daejun can't even remember the last time he smiled. The crew continues with their party. After the gassing incident, Daejun left the laundry room and now sleeps with the others. He can also now casually talk to the other members. However, there is only a small age gap between them. The chores are now shared equally, but the others have their own part-time jobs, except for Daejun and Han-gil. Daejun tries to do some chores, but Han-gil uses his leader status to start training Daejun already. However, Dae-yeob kicks Daejun out and tells Daejun to earn money to live equally with them. The leader wishes Daejun luck while laughing. Daejun starts working in a pizza shop, and he feels like quitting already. The folks are weird, and the boss is weirder. Daejun tries to run away, but he encounters the pretty daughter of the shop owner. The owner tells her daughter, Naeun, to help Daejun. Naeun checks out Daejun and calls him cute. It looks like Daejun will stay a bit longer. This meeting changed Daejun's life. One night, Han-gil beats down someone and orders him to tell a specific bastard to come out with the person who gassed his crew, or he will personally go and kill him. Daejun is fully mesmerized by Naeun. She helps and leads Daejun with the tasks in the shop. She even covers up for Daejun's mistakes. Daejun thanks Tak with all his heart. He feels happy working with Naeun. Later, a smoking customer gets mad after Naeun tells her to stop smoking inside. The customer throws his drink at Naeun, and Daejun tries to help, but the boss stops Daejun. Naeun apologizes nicely to the customer. The boss also apologizes, and the rude customer leaves. Daejun later complains to the boss that his daughter was mistreated. The boss then asks him for any suggestions and gets mad. Naeun notices that Daejun is from a different neighborhood. There is a dangerous organization in the neighborhood, and they don't know the members. They need to be careful with any customers. The boss knew stores that disappeared after being targeted by those people. He cries as he feels powerless. Naeun thanks Daejun for worrying. Daejun can see that Naeun is more mature than him despite being the same age. He knows life will be harder than he thought. As he got used to his job, Daejun started his first fighting lesson. Han-gil mentions that Daejun doesn't need to get rid of his fear when he gets hit anymore. Han-jun wonders what to do, and Han-gil claims that he is going to reshape Daejun for the next few days. Daejun experiences hellish training: runs, jump ropes, push-ups, squats, sit-ups, and even footwork. He wonders if this is proper training because he hasn't thrown a punch yet. Daejun asks Han-gil for a surefire way to win. However, Han-gil has already shown it to Daejun. Han-gil tells him to use his surroundings, stop the opponent's movement, block their vision, and look for an appropriate weapon. Daejun just needs to develop those senses. Daejun insists on learning to punch like a pro, but Han-gil tells him not to focus on looking cool and hits Daejun. Things got confusing when Daejun dodged Han-gil's hit. Han-gil continues attacking Daejun, and the latter dodges everything. Han-gil then decides to teach Daejun how to punch by ingraining it in his body. Daejun sweats in fear. Days later, a thug beats up someone, and other men report to Chun Kai-wong that Han-gil mopped their men recently. Kai-wong is pissed off and blames Hyung-tae. Ki-won continues beating up Hyung-tae. Hyung-tae claims he will return the money he received. However, Ki-won won't let him go. He then orders his men to find Han-gil's group within 30 minutes. The men find it impossible, but Kai-won threatens them. Everyone scrambled off. Two went to Han Gil's crew's house, but no one was there. They called the other one, who went off somewhere. Meanwhile, Dejun returns to work in the pizza shop. Just then, he notices a thug holding up the boss, and the place looks like a mess. They are sure that the shop is related to Tak. Dejun gets enraged looking at the scene, but Naeun tells him to run away. The thug tries to ask for Tak as he tries to hit Naeun. Just then, something flies past the thug, and it was Dejun who threw it. It exclaims to be a regular in the shop. Kim Tae-yang is surprisingly huge, with all muscles and no fat. He used his talent in school, but outside, Ki-wong is only his natural enemy. Tae-yang is taken aback right now, seeing a wimpy loser daring to fight him. Dejun looks like a puppy in front of Tae-yang. Tae-yang warns Dejun, but Dejun calls him a pig. Tae-yang charges toward Dejun. Dejun remembered to use his surroundings and made Tae-yang trip over a chair. He then goes for the thing Han Gil taught him. Days ago, Han Gil showed his jabs and moved while Dejun was still. Dejun is especially impressed with the straight punch that channels your power from your foot to your fist. He remembers the punch well, and he starts throwing jabs at Tae-yang. He then continues to throw a straight punch. Tae-yang was surprised, just like Naeun, who only thought of Dejun as a hopeless friend. Meanwhile, Dae-yup complains to Han Gil that Dejun won't beat anyone easily with just those punches, especially the bulky and brawny opponents. Tae-yang swings his fist around and tries to catch Dejun. Dejun then plans to dodge and punch until Tae-yang drops. Minutes later, Dejun is already tired, but Tae-yang is still fine. He also got cornered and found Tae-yang's punches heavy. Tae-yang then grabs and chokes Dejun. Naeun tells Tae-yang to stop. Tae-yang pushes her aside, and Naeun can only scream seeing Dejun dying. Dae-yup thought Dejun would be useful, but it seems like he was wrong. However, Han Gil sees something different. Dejun collects his saliva and spits it on Tae-yang's face. Dejun continues jabbing, but Tae-yang receives it all with ease. Dejun grabs a bottle and smacks it on Tae-yang's face. Dejun continues jabbing with the bottle. Naeun worries seeing Dejun's hand bleeding. This is nothing for Dejun, who experienced a knife stab. He lets out one more straight jab and breaks the bottle. Naeun tells him to stop because Tae-yang has already fainted. The boss is amazed at Dejun, who swears to kill anyone who threatens the shop again. Dejun finally experienced a win without luck. However, reinforcements arrive. They can't believe Tae-yang got knocked down and thought it was the shop owner who fought. Dejun steps forward, claiming to be the one to defeat Tae-yang. Naeun tries to stop him, but Dejun can only think of getting back at the bullies. He exclaims that he will take them both on. Just then, the thugs got punched aside. Kim Tak appears and sees the shop destroyed. He ties up his hair as he commends Dejun. Tak asks the two thugs who want to die first. The two thugs attack Tak, but Tak easily counters them. Dejun watches how Tak is strong. Tak asks the thugs who sent them. One easily confesses that it was Ki-wong, and it was also him who instigated the gas incident. Tak kicks the thug, making him unconscious. He realizes they are from Hagwon, the delinquent group that wiped out the mafias in the area. Hagwon controlled the neighborhood after the mafia left. Their most vicious member is Chun Ki-wong. Their crew is being targeted because Han Gil and the others are getting in their way of fully taking over the neighborhood. Tak made sure that they wouldn't reach the pizza shop, but the owner claims that they are being watched already. Tak asks why he didn't say anything. The owner feels powerless after seeing the other business burn to the ground in Haekwon. Tak gets frustrated. Naeun cries as she thanks Dejun, but she is scared that Hagwon will look for them later. Tak later informs Dae-yup about the situation. Just then, Dae-yup notices a shop being ransacked by thugs and drops the call. The old shop owner is going to get hit, but Dae-yup grabs the stick. Dae-yup hits the thug, and the rest announce that they are from Hagwon. Dae-yup then jumps on them and also introduces himself. He later knocks out everyone and checks on the old woman. Just then, he gets hit by a metal bat. Ki-wong appears and smiles as he finds one of Han Gil's underlings. Dae-yup gets offended at being called an underling. Later, Gae-young scolds them for getting involved with Hagwon. Tak claims that the pizza shop sells good pizza. Sung-bin also agrees. She exclaims that they can't fight Hagwon, and she looks for Han Gil. Dejun wonders where Dae-yup is. Just then, all of them received a message. It shows a picture of Dae-yup tied up and beaten up in an abandoned factory. Gae-young furiously shouts. Meanwhile, Kae-won slaps Dae-yeob as he asks why the others are not coming. Dae-yeob asks Kae-won to kill him so his family has one less mouth to feed. Just then, a group appears at the factory entrance. Tak claims that they will take on all of Hakwang now. The crew sees a lot of opponents and discovers Dae-yeob and Kae-won. Dae-yeob tells them to go away. Tak gets mad after seeing Dae-yeob in pain. Kae-won steps on Dae-yeob to provoke the crew and calls Han-gil a coward for not showing up. Gae-young tells them not to listen and calls Kae-won's face and beard disgusting. Kae-won gets offended and orders everyone to attack the crew. Dae-jun worries that they can't take them all, but suddenly discovers that they can. Tak and Sung-bin are managing well despite being outnumbered. The other thugs try to attack Gae-young. Dae-jun tries to protect Gae-young, but she pushes him aside. Gae-young grabbed a thug and ended him with a suplex. Gae-young asks who is scared. Dae-jun also wants to join the fight, and one thug attacks him. Meanwhile, they think they have dealt with half of them already. Just then, Kae-won attacks him, which he easily dodges. Kae-won confronts him with a huge smile. The two confront each other for a clash. Dae-jun, on the other hand, is cornered by his attacker. He grabs a piece of burning wood and attacks the thug. He thought he won, but the thug is still fine. The thug warns everyone not to move or he will slice Dae-jun's neck. Everyone pauses and Kae-won tells them to fight like before. Tak puts down his fists. Kae-won laughs at them for bringing in a deadweight in a fight. Tak and Dae-jun look at each other. Kae-won mocks Tak, who is being silent. He then asks Kae-won if Dae-jun is really a dead weight. Kae-won gets surprised as Tak punches his face with all of his might. He remembers Dae-jun telling them to throw him away if he ever holds them back. The thug holding Dae-jun hostage is also surprised. Dae-jun uses this chance to grab the shard of the mirror and tells him that he took the wrong person hostage. It is because he is not scared to die anymore. Dae-jun headbutts the thug as Tak claims that Dae-jun is the craziest one among them. The thug gets knocked out. Even Gae-young and Sung-bin are surprised. Tak claims that his group can take on anyone. Kae-won then tells him that they haven't won yet. The fight continues. Kae-won finds Tak's blocking useless because he is using a metal bat. He just needs one hit. Just then, some of Kae-won's underlings hold Tak in place. Kae-won swings his bat with all his might. However, Dae-jun appears from behind and hits Kae-won with a wooden stick. Dae-jun thinks he can do it after defeating one of them. But Kae-won's intimidation is too much for Dae-jun. He notices how Kae-won is different, and he will really die if he fights him. Dae-jun's body freezes and Kae-won uses this chance to hit Dae-jun. Kae-won tells him not to get overconfident. Dae-jun can't move his body out of fear. Kae-won turns his back on Dae-jun to clean up the others, but he sees Han-gil's crew doing fine while his underlings are knocked out. He claims that 3 against 1 is unfair. Tak complains that Kae-won is not supposed to complain about that. Sung-bin dodges Kae-won's attack and deals a body blow. However, Kae-won is unaffected and continues swinging his bat. Tak grabs Kae-won from behind and Kae-won kicks Sung-bin instead. Gae-young holds Kae-won's leg. They try to trip him over, but Kae-won musters up his strength and hits Gae-young with his bat. Kae-won also grabs Tak and throws him away. They are surprised at how strong Kae-won is. They wonder why he is so confident in fighting them all. Kae-won then bangs his metal bat on a metal pole. The sound then signals the rest of his crew to go inside the factory. Tak is surprised by their numbers, and Kae-won orders them to crush Han-gil's crew. Minutes later, the crew is knocked down. Kae-won then tells Tak that he sent someone to burn down the pizza shop. It is Yoon Sung-bo, Hae-kwang's crazy arsonist. Kae-won tries to contact Sung-bo, but Dae-jun suddenly bites his leg. Kae-won stomps on him, but Dae-jun bites harder because he doesn't want them to mess up the pizza shop. Kae-won hits Dae-jun aside with his metal bat and calls Sung-bo. However, the voice is different. Just then, Sung-bo is thrown inside the factory while someone talks to Kae-won on the phone. A man appears as he complains about people taking on the title of psycho. Han-gil appears as he asks them about being a psycho. He warns them that he won't stop beating them even if they beg. He asks Kae-won to invite them kindly next time. Han-gil is surprised to see his crew struggle. Kae-won tells Han-gil not to interfere anymore with their business, but Han-gil instead calls them mafia wanus instead. However, messing with his family is a mistake. A thug tries to attack Han-gil, but he is easily subdued. Han-gil tells them to attack him with their number. Some of the thugs got afraid, but Kai-won offered them a monetary reward to take down Han-gil. Everyone attacks, but Han-gil easily dodges them and attacks at the same time. He already knocks out a few, and a huge thug tries to attack him. Han-gil immediately picks up a stick and hits the thug while dodging another attack. He chokes a thug and stabs him with the sharp end of the wood. Dae-jun watches as he realizes that this is Han-gil's true ability. Kai-won tells Han-gil not to move or he will turn Tak into a cripple. However, Han-gil didn't mind and continued fighting. Kai-won warns him again, but Han-gil tells him to do it. Tak explains that such intimidation won't work on Han-gil. Kai-won gets mad and hits Tak's arm and tells Han-gil not to regret things. Han-gil challenges him, saying he will feel regret in the end. Kai-won gets intimidated, and he remembers being warned not to mess with Han-gil's gang. Avoid them as much as he can while rolling with the business. Kai-won forgets about it and attacks Han-gil himself. Kai-won keeps swinging his metal bat against Han-gil, but Han-gil is ignoring Kai-won while taking care of the small fries. Han-gil feels relieved that only Kai-won is left. Kai-won tries to attack, but Han-gil dodges and counters. Han-gil can see why his crew was defeated by Kai-won. However, he can't beat Han-gil. Kai-won falls to the ground, and Han-gil tells him to get up. Feeling humiliated, Kai-won tackles Han-gil and pins him down while throwing punches. He angrily wonders why he was warned not to mess with Han-gil. Just then, Han-gil locks Kai-won's arm with his legs. Kai-won screams in pain after Han-gil breaks his arm. Han-gil heard from Sung-bo that they are the ones behind the gassing incident in Dae-diab. Han-gil calls them crazy and claims it is better for them to disappear. Kai-won warns him that Hae-kwang will be after him if Han-gil messes up with them, especially if the big brother will order to kill them. Han-gil asks Kai-won to send his regards as he drags Kai-won toward the fire pit. Kai-won remembers again the final warning of the big brother about Han-gil. Ki-won tries to stop Han-gil, but Han-gil reminds him that he started this. His crew could have died during the gassing incident. He warns them that they shouldn't have messed with his crew. Kai-won screams out of pain and runs away from the fire pit. He falls to the ground and excruciates in pain. He screams out loud, and Han-gil stomps on Kai-won's mouth. This is the first time Dae-jun has witnessed how scary Han-gil can be. Han-gil tries to wake up Dae-diab. Han-gil then tells Dae-jun that it is hard to live in this place. He tells them to go home, and the crew leaves the abandoned factory. However, their crew's relationship with Hae-kwang just turned worse. They were hospitalized for a while, and surprisingly the pizza shop owner paid for their hospital bills. The neighborhood stayed peaceful after Ki-won disappeared. However, Han-gil warns everyone that Hae-kwang will be back soon for them. Another strong person like Kai-won will be later sent to the neighborhood. Han-gil asks them to decide whether to leave or stay in the area. Dae-diab reminds Han-gil that they don't have anywhere to return to, and that this is the only place they belong. Later that night, Dae-jun asks Han-gil if there are more ways to get stronger at a faster rate. Han-gil tells Dae-jun that he is already growing at a fast rate. However, the recent fight made Dae-jun realize that he needs to get stronger. He wants to be strong like the other members before Hae-kwang strikes back. Han-gil then decides to give Dae-jun a special lesson, and Dae-jun is ready for it. Days pass by and the pizza shop is operating peacefully, but they wonder when this peace will last. Dae-jun goes out to throw some trash and discovers Naeun returning from school. He asks what is wrong as Naeun stares at a stuffed toy in the trash. Dae-jun wonders what is wrong, but Naeun claims that it is nothing. Naeun then asks if Dae-jun is free and asks him to meet her tomorrow after school. Dae-jun nonchalantly agrees and later realizes something. The next day, Dae-jun waits for Naeun outside her school with a strange attire and hairstyle. He blames Dae-diab for it. He wonders if he looks okay. He is anxious that the other students are mocking him. Looking at the students, Dae-jun feels he is in a different world now. He takes a peek inside the school grounds and sees Naeun receiving a stuffed doll from Dong-ha after she threw the first one. However, Dae-jun can see Naeun's dark expression. Naeun throws the doll to the ground and claims that there are cameras in them. Dong-ha laughs and comments on how observant Naeun is. He tries to grab Naeun, but Dae-jun appears to save her. They call Dae-jun a loser, and Dae-jun asks Dong-ha if he has ever been beaten by a loser before. The pause and laughter at Daejun. Dongha pushes him aside and grabs Naeun again. Just then, Daejun punched Dongha and warned him not to touch Naeun. Dongha gets frustrated and takes on a boxing stance. Daejun quickly throws a jab, but Dongha easily dodges it and counters. Daejun kneels on the ground and realizes how strong Dongha is. Daejun stands up and tells Dongha to stop barking. Dongha gets irritated and takes his stance again. However, his friends warn him not to continue because they are attracting attention. Dongha clicks his tongue and leaves with his group. Dongha then warns Daejun that he knows his face and name now. Later, at a cafe shop, Daejun asks Naeun if Dongha has always been bothering her. Naeun can't say anything. Daejun knows how she feels because he also went through a lot of bullying in school. Daejun warns her that after she endures everything, she will lose it eventually because that's what also happened to him. He offers help and Naeun cries. She shares that she thought of Dongha as a nice guy in the beginning. However, Dongha would cross the line by randomly touching her. She soon realized that she was being treated as a plaything. She has been constantly harassed, but she can't tell her father, who is already struggling over Haekwang. Daejun can't believe that such a thing is happening around Naeun. He feels like killing Dongha. Meanwhile, Dongha is forcing another girl to sing at a karaoke place for him. The girl asks Dongha to let her go. Just then, a man appears to save the girl. However, Dongha knocks the man out. He continues to stomp on the man while the girl asks him to stop. Dongha then tells her to sing. The girl starts singing and Dongha and his friends find her hilarious. Dongha goes out with one friend and talks about what they found out about Daejun. They already had someone follow Daejun, and they plan to beat him up to lure Naeun out. However, someone tells them there's no need. They look to the side, and Dongha's friend got hit by a fire extinguisher. Daejun appears with another fire extinguisher in his hand and tells Dongha that he is there to bust his skull open. Dongha wonders how Daejun found him. The guy who was tailing Daejun got unlucky, and Han-gil discovered him. Dongha sees it as a chance to beat up Daejun now. Daejun is frustrated after knowing what happened to Naeun. He unpins the fire extinguisher and fires it toward Dongha. Dongha can't see anything, and Daejun uses this chance to smack Dongha with the fire extinguisher. Moments ago, Daejun checked on his stalker's phone, saw the messages, and told Han-gil about Naeun's situation. Han-gil claims Daejun is fortunate because this is the time for his special lesson. Han-gil tells Daejun that the best way to get stronger is by getting into real fights. Dongha blocked the fire extinguisher with his arm and got hurt. Daejun knows he can't win in a proper fight, so he needs to beat Dongha right now while he is distracted. Daejun throws the fire extinguisher and Dongha dodges. Daejun follows up with a punch, but Dongha suddenly disappears. Dongha bent down and released an uppercut against Daejun. Dongha continues beating up Daejun, who realizes that his opponent is indeed a boxer. He tries to put up a guard, but Dongha is fast at throwing punches at Daejun. Daejun falls over, and Dongha calls him an idiot for coming. He thanks Daejun because he can now have fun with Naeun. He is excited to see Naeun despairing after he beats Daejun. Daejun gets mad and starts throwing jabs at Dongha. Dongha calls his punches pathetic and moves in to throw a straight jab at Daejun's face. Daejun wonders why he can't hit Dongha. He only wants to become strong like his family. Daejun thinks about giving up. However, he only intends to give up fighting with boxing and uses the door to block Dongha's punch. Dongha screams in pain, and Daejun tries to tackle him, but Dongha punches him in the face. Daejun persistently tries again, but Dongha keeps punching him to keep a distance. Dongha claims that Daejun is not even comparable to a sandbag. Daejun tells him to stop talking and check on his right hand instead. Daejun notices that Dongha hasn't used his right hand since he punched the door. Dongha continues punching using his left hand, and Daejun blocks the punches while closing in on Dongha. Dongha realizes that Daejun is taking advantage of his injured hand. He punched Daejun with his right hand and felt pain afterward. Daejun persistently moves forward and grabs Dongha. Daejun remembers Han-gil's advice when fighting a boxer. Daejun goes for a clinch against Dongha. He suddenly grabs Dongha's neck and starts knee-kicking him. Han-gil advised him to kick as much as he can until the opponent gets knocked out. Dongha breaks his ribs and realizes that he is losing. He tries to get out of Daejun's clinch. Hangil advised Taejun to do one more thing when the opponent starts getting out of the clinch. Taejun swings his right leg out far behind and reminds Dongha that he swore to bust his skull open. Taejun then knee kicks Dongha's head with all his might. Will the fight end with Taejun's knee kick? Make sure to like this video and subscribe. Until next time.